Sit down and listen while we speak. It's time for us to spill the tea. Tea for you and tea for me. Building a big old family tree. Just us. Tea for two and two for tea. Building a big old family tree. Yeah, yeah. Just us. Yeah. Just us.
Thanks for joining us again for another episode of Just Us. I'm Rodney.
I'm Qui.
And on today, we have some wonderful guests that's joining us on the program today. But before we get into that, though, Qui, you've been on spring break. How's your spring break been going?
Spring break is always warranted and needed. It's been great. We do go back to school tomorrow. However, I only have 8 more weeks of school left before the summer. So I win anyway. I mean, I'm good anyway. So what about yours?
Well, I don't get a spring break. You know, we folks that have, regular jobs, we just work. There's no end in sight until either we retire or drop dead. So I'm working on the retirement because I just don't want to drop dead.
That's real strong goals to reach, but okay.
No, but seriously, guys, we have had a lot of things have been going on, as you know, over the past few weeks in this country. One, gas prices are out of control.
Yeah, and we're living witness to that because we traveled and it was crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
As you already know. And of course, we already know that's because of what? The war that we're in that nobody wants to be in, but that we got pulled into. Mm-hmm. So we got to deal with that. And of course, we want you guys to continue to pray for all the families and all the lost loved ones that have been dealing with this and those that are getting employed to this. So hopefully this will be through this and over this soon enough. At least that is our prayer. And then, of course, you also have the partial government shutdown that's going on with all the TSA workers and the long lines at airports. And now I hear ICE may be going in and doing security at airports. So it's a lot of craziness going on, a lot of foolishness that's going on. Yeah. That's just my opinion. But we're going to stay prayed up about it. And we're going to continue to lift up each other as we move on and move through.
Absolutely. And prayer is the key, essential right now, because from the economy to the state of America and beyond, we are dealing with a lot of turmoil right now. And so we could not, those of us who are in Christ, we cannot live this life without some connection to the Father, because other than that, we will be insane.
Absolutely. So you got to have that connection, and you got to always walk by faith and not by sight. But I'm excited about today because we have 2 very special guests that's joining us here on the podcast today, and that's going to be talking about a subject that I bet a lot of us haven't thought about or, didn't consider at one point, in time in our lives, but that's very crucial, very important. And that is dealing with marriage, but not only marriage, premarital counseling. So Qui and I did premarital counseling.
We did.
And we did it for a few weeks or maybe even longer than
maybe
that,
a month
actually.
Or 2. We went through premarital counseling we did a session, I believe, once a week. Yeah.
And so those of you who don't do it, I encourage you to do it. Hopefully everyone does it before they get married, but that's what's so great about today's guest, because today we have David and April Page that's joining us today. And as they come aboard, just to tell you a little bit about them, they are natives from Californians that have been in Texas since 2013. They are the proud parents of 2 adult children now, as well as 2 grandchildren that they are loving, caring for as well. David's been in ministry since 2013 and called to ministry and But more than that, David and April's been married for 30 years, guys.
Yes.
Doing what they do, part of the community, uplifting others, and now they're walking this walk doing premarital counseling. I think it's great. I think it's a joy. So help me welcome David and April Page to the podcast.
Yay.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
So, how you guys been? Welcome aboard.
Hi, we're good.
Doing great. Enjoying the weather. But I must say, because I don't want to shortchange the Lord on anything, I actually began ministry in 2007.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I misspoke. I said 2013. No, they moved to Texas in 2013.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So I
that's
just want to make sure I don't want to shortchange the Lord on nothing.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. See, the problem is, they have so much in their bio and you try to memorize it all.
Yes.
And so that's a flub on me. But welcome to the podcast, Just Us. We're glad to have you guys here to talk about not only you guys, but the service that you're offering and everything that you do. And so why don't we just start from the beginning? Tell us a little bit about your love story. How did it all begin with David and April?
The love story. So I'll give you the short of the long.
Okay.
We have two different versions.
There's always there's always two different versions.
Always two different versions, two different perspectives. But this is my journey leading to our encounter. 1993, 25-year-old young man, bachelor. At that time in life, I had come to the conclusion that I was, ready to get off the market in the dating scene. And I took, for a 25-year-old bachelor, I must say, I took a very unconventional route. And what that route was, I stopped associating myself with any other ladies at that time. One or two you're talking to as a young man, kind of cleaned the slate. Went celibate, heavily into prayer, just recalibrating, refocusing, seeking the Lord's face for who I would pray that he would, bless me to connect with. And he answered my prayer on a night that I was not expecting it, nor was I looking at it. Got a phone call from a cousin asking me to go out with him to a club because I was in that season of prayer and celibacy. I really wasn't interested in going, had no enthusiasm about it. He leaned on me pretty hard and got me out the house.
You twist your arm.
And I'm sorry?
He twisted your arm to make you go to the club.
Made me go to the club, which at one point in time, it wasn't too hard to get me to go, but I was in a season where I knew that environment just really wasn't where I was trying to be. Once I got there, saw this young lady walk out the women's bathroom. I was standing in an area where I knew the photographer. So because I was in more of a laid back, mindset at that time, I wasn't really trying to start and initiate conversations with any ladies. But as fate would have it, she saw me look her way, and I was basically just watching the traffic. She stopped and thought I had said something to her. And I was saying, oh, no, I didn't say anything. I'm trying to say I didn't say anything. I'm not trying to flirt. You can, keep it moving. I could see clearly with my eyes that she was beautiful. So it had nothing to do with the exterior. It was my personal mindset. I was in a more of a passive space, not that traditional young man aggressive space where you're trying to initiate dialogue with a young lady. And we talked for a few minutes, exchanged names. I offered her a drink at the time. She accepted, and the conversation kind of went on, and we exchanged phone numbers, and that's where the connection began.
All right, so that's David's version. That's David's version. But now, April, what's your version?
Now I'm gonna throw in some extras, from
Some
what I thought
season.
when I got out the bathroom. You know how someone goes, that's how I saw his head. At least like as I was walking past or about to walk past, I thought he said, and so hence the reason why I said something. I was like, what, and then I had liquid courage that night because normally I don't talk to guys. Guys are approaching me. I say that humbly, but I was shy normally. But lo and behold, I knew it was God intervention at that point in time, because I approached him. I introduced myself. I remember he kissed my hand when I put it out like this to go shake it. I remember he kissed the top of
Ooh,
my
he
hand,
pulled out the Billy
and then
D.
I'm sorry, what'd you say,
I
Rodney?
say he pulled out the Billy D. Williams moves. He got that from Mahogany. I know where he got that from.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and I think another thing that caught my attention as we were talking, he offered to buy my two friends a drink. Now, back then guys were not doing that. They, barely buy you a drink. So the fact that he offered my two good friends a drink, I was quite impressed from the gate. So yeah, he reeled me in.
But
He got my attention.
I want to put on the tail end of that after the encounter. I must say this because it brings it home. That was a Saturday night. We had our conversation briefly. She went her way. I went my way the rest of the evening. We did dance one time that night. And the song that we danced to was Janet Jackson, That's the Way Love Goes. That was our one song that we danced to that night. That following Monday, I must say, as I close this portion, I gave her a phone call because sometimes guys play games. Oh, I'm going to wait a week before I call. I'm going to wait, 3 or 4 or 5 days. I don't want her to think I'm desperate. I was in such a steadfast mindset of I'm not playing no games. I'm serious. We'll see how this goes. I gave her a call, asked her, what is it that you're looking for in a man? She kind of gave me her laundry list of things that, what her preferences were. I listened intently and I said, if you're serious about everything you just said, I said, I'm your guy. Aww. And she laughed like, he must be crazy. Like, how arrogant can you be? And I said, no. I said, if you're serious about all the things that you said you're looking for in a man, I'm that guy. I said, you don't know it now because we just met, but I'm that guy. And many, many years later, we can look back on that story and that moment and that conversation, and we can laugh because I can say humbly, it proved itself out.
Oh, what a beautiful love story. Very beautiful.
So how did we go from that? So what this tell us is how did you guys decide, premarital counseling, that was a service that needed to be fulfilled?
Well, in fairness to April, that was my personal dream. That was my dream. After getting married, and I think just to give it context in terms of how we got there, I was 25 when we met. She was 22. So young people. 2 years later, we got married. Having been married for a period of time, during that time, I also had good friends of mine that we both knew. They're getting married. We're either in their marriage or attending their marriages. And just over time, I always had a passion for it. Obviously, when ministry did come into the picture, that was just something I had an affinity for. I had a heart for marriage relationships, helping people. I noticed people would seek me out, if not individually out, or her out individually, but they would seek us out as a couple. They respected our union, how we moved, the way we were in lockstep together. And it was something that organically just kind of developed within me, a desire to be a blessing to couples, seeing couples in what I considered at times when marriages didn't endure the test of time for what I could say was non-divorce worthy reasons. getting divorced for reasons that aren't divorce worthy, but your union has ended, seeing the impact, seeing the damage, families, their lives not really being the same going forward, just how it impacted. And I wanted to make a difference, if I could, in that particular space. I noticed also that most people would seek out marital counseling once the problems, if any, were already existing,
Right.
whatever challenges were already going on, what had already bubbled up within the marriage, they were seeking marriage counseling. My desire was to catch you before you cross the threshold and deal with you before the problems arise and before the impact and the damage can be done. And I wanted to deal with it from a premarital counseling standpoint, which, just like you and Qui, April and I also went through premarital counseling. So we understood the value of it, the foundation that it provided for us, and with the years of marriage that we had endured up to that point, wanted to turn around and give back.
Okay. So how does your because I know you're both, faith oriented, believers and followers. How does that play a part in this service? How does that play a part in the advice that you are, giving to others?
Well, from my perspective, and I know, and I'll give April a chance to share, but because I am the premarital counselor, I'll take these initial questions. Being a man of faith and understanding the wisdom that God gives you, not just in life, but specifically as it pertains to the context of marriage and how we function in the marital union as husband and wife. Most people, when they desire to get married, they don't really have a clear understanding of exactly what marriage actually is as it's defined biblically. Irregardless of what their personal beliefs are, the truth of the matter is marriage is a God-ordained union. Therefore, he has given us instructions in order for us to function in a way that will glorify him in our earthly marital unions. So from the wisdom I gained there, and obviously through personal experience being married for 30 years, I'll put that out there. We've been married for 30 years. So over the test of time and being married at a young age, it has uniquely equipped me to have the perspective of having been a husband, and also her having been a wife at various ages and stages in life. I know what it's like to be a husband in my 20s. I know what it's like to evolve a little more and be a husband in my mid 30s, and then going through my 40s. And I'm proudly to say I'm 58 years old today. And so to have met my wife when I was 25, got married at 27, and we're still together, and I'm 58. I won't tell her age, but I'm 58. I think it's fair to say that the wisdom that I've gained and the personal experience has thoroughly equipped me, along with the word of God and my personal day-to-day experience. Seeing him show up in our marriage firsthand has equipped me to provide that wisdom and knowledge to prospective married couples.
And how would
Yeah,
you?
I would.
No, I was going to say, April. How does that fit along with you?
Yeah, I mean, me as his helpmate, I'm the COO of the business. So just really the spiritual foundation is what is the key driver to everything of what we do together as a couple for the business. And so even though I am technically behind the scenes, everything that is done, we keep God first as far as, how we would address couples, or more so him. If there is a time where I'm needed to help have a conversation with the future wife, then that's when I would step in. But, just based on this being his walk, his journey, because I love interior design. That's me all day, all night. But just to piggyback on what he said, that's where I agree. There's nothing additional I want to add, but
I'll say this just for those who are watching the show. Where I actually, ask for her contribution is if it's okay with any, prospective couples. Because I'm a man, I want to keep things balanced. And there are times where topics come up where I think it's fair to receive a woman's point of view. And so if I'm talking, to both, parties, then I would, for the comfort and the benefit of the prospective bride, I'll ask, would you mind if my wife comes in on this particular topic where it's necessary to get the perspective of both people?
Absolutely.
And they normally really, really appreciate that, because I'm not looking at it. I can't speak from the perspective of a wife. And so my wife can step in at that time, and then April can give her perspective from the wife's point of view. And that balances out the information that goes forward based on the particular area that might be being covered at that particular time.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's amazing. I'm very excited about this topic. And we have, as couples, talked often about marriages and the things that, we believe, and family and all those things. So my question to you, and any one of you can take this, I've often heard you speak of the fine print in marriage. Can you please expound on that a little bit for us?
Yeah, that's a thought that I came up with. The fine print. So the fine print, and I do have a video out on my website with regards to this particular topic. David L. Page, premarital counseling, which is on my Facebook business page as well as my Instagram business page. So I encourage anyone to go out and look at it in its long format there. But just to sum it up, the fine print, when you think about a contract, has clauses that are in the contract, but there's normally really small fine print, and it's at the bottom of the contract. Oftentimes, when people sign agreements, they fail to read the details. And although technically, for the record, marriage is a covenant, but for the masses, to make it more easily understandable, I use the term the fine print, which is associated with a contract. You have the primary body of the contract, and then you have the small details. Those details are just as binding as everything that you see in the main body of the contract. And as it pertains to marriage, there are areas that I believe couples fail to discuss and really look at prior to making that life-altering decision to get married. And what happens is, when you get married, for instance, extended family dynamic, depending on the family, you need to understand, when you get married, you're also marrying that person's family, and they are marrying your family. And depending on the dynamic of the relationship between them and their family, whether it be healthy or not, it can be a burden, and it can negatively potentially impact your relationship, depending on how much leeway they have to infiltrate your marriage. That's something that you may fail to look at and take in consideration. Or another example may be us being people of faith. If your prospective husband or wife is not a person of faith, but you are a believer, that could be a major, major sticking point within the marital union if you don't have some type of understanding and agreement on that going in. You can't enter into your marriage assuming certain things, especially when it's in areas that are very critical. That's what I would say the fine print is. And to close out on this, I'll say this. You'll say to yourself, man, I didn't sign up for all this stuff. And you absolutely signed up for it because you stepped over the threshold. And when you stepped over the threshold, you're basically saying, I agree to the terms of all what comes with marriage and with this individual that I have vowed to commit my life to. That's the fine print. Those are the details. And that's what I hope to provide in premarital counseling, is to address some of the things that couples may have a tendency to overlook in the midst of the excitement of preparation for a wedding. You miss the fine print details that pertain to the marriage.
Yeah. I think a lot of the attention just goes to things such as, the wedding planning itself. And
Right.
so the fine print does get lost in all of it. So whether you're picking out a dress, florists, caterers, DJ, photographers, and then just the grand day itself. As a woman, we're all wanting to feel like princesses on that day. So last thing we're thinking about is the fine print as soon to be bride. So I would say it's important to not overlook that piece, that component. As a matter of fact, it should be first before you start putting and investing in everything else. You got to invest in what lies ahead. And so, reading that fine print is critical.
I love that. It's setting the foundation. You have to have the foundation, and which in turn will lead to the investment. And so I think that is amazing. And we often overlook the fine print all the time.
Well, I think that's the broader expansion of, for rich or for poor, sickness and health, that, no one goes into detail of what that means. Right. And what does that include, or what does it, it doesn't include. Right. And I think part of that fine print is, we find that, many people don't think of the, or want to talk about those little things, those little nuances that, irritate one another, and how would you handle those little things going into the marriage, and have you even discussed it? Have you even discussed that? Or finances, have you even discussed it? How that looks and how will that work? And so, I think that includes all of that, because I think we've known people that, after that day is over and you spent all this money, you've had your glorious time, and now you say, okay, this is where the work starts. This is where the work begins.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm not ready for the work. I'm not ready for it. Yeah,
that is profound, and I'm gonna throw it back to you, Rodney, and Qui. But I just want to say this because it leads to a thought and a topic that I will be dropping another video on shortly, and I'll just give a quick teaser. So hopefully after today, people will be inspired to go and look me up. But it's called facts, facts over feelings. So people dismiss the facts of some of the things you were just talking about because of the feeling that they have. And they ignore those facts that are right there and certain characteristics that won't age well in a relationship over time.
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
good. That's good. And speaking of, can you guys share what are some roadblocks you guys have seen in relationships that you would advise to avoid before getting married?
Yeah, I would say some of the roadblocks that you normally see are bringing in baggage from your past into the current relationship. And so that can hinder from you being able to go forward as a result of you holding on to things that you experienced, whether it was childhood trauma. It basically causes you to become more guarded, and as well as it impacts, trust overall between you and your partner as a result of what you experienced in the past. And so hence the reason why, seek counseling, therapy, to go and iron out some of those things that you battle with, because you definitely want to enter into a marriage in a healthy state. And so that is one of the things I would say, hey, make sure that you address your baggage before crossing that threshold.
Absolutely.
I want to say, if I can, that I agree wholeheartedly with everything April just said. Because the fact of the matter is we all have some baggage.
Absolutely.
We all come with some baggage. And a lot of it is baggage we don't even realize we're carrying.
Yeah.
You know, it could be relationship baggage, but I think a lot of it also is childhood trauma baggage, or the way you was raised baggage, or, you know, and you don't realize it, you know, and until something happens, right? And then you start doing the same thing that you swore up and down that you would never do, and then, you know, it hits you like a ton of bricks because of the fact that you wasn't, you know, walking in with a clean slate. And I think that happens far too often in many different scenarios. So yeah, I agree with that 100%. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And the important thing is, you know, we're all human, right? So we are going to, like you said, we're going to have baggage. But it's about, you know, understanding and trusting your partner, and trusting, you know, God to help you through those situations, through those problems and those generational things that you have going on in your life. That's the only way it's going to be broken. I mean, if we want to be successful, not only in our marriage, but in rearing our children and all those things, some things we have to deal with. And so you want to make sure you have a partner that's going to be with you and walk you through those times when, you know, it's heavy, because it will get heavy.
Right.
It's inevitable. But how are you guys walking together to get through those roadblocks, if you will?
Absolutely. Yes.
I'll just briefly add this. Roadblocks, I've seen people being hasty, moving too fast.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you jump into something, not understanding the magnitude of what you're really entering into. Because I had mentioned earlier, people don't understand what marriage actually is and what it actually represents in a broader context when it becomes official. And so you don't take the time to do your necessary diligence, not only with your mate, but with yourself and knowing yourself. I felt and was very confident, as an example, and I tell this to clients, I'm not just going to generalize examples. I am your example. I'm going to be the easel. I'll put myself on the easel, and I'll be the one to use myself as the example for you or for y'all. Some people generalize things, but I want to point to me, and I point to us, because that's what I know for a fact. And so with that, I was confident within myself as a young man that I could enter into a relationship like marriage and be committed and endure the test of time and not be flighty and inconsistent and moved by every moment. 1 minute you're in love, 1 minute you can't stand them, you're ready to leave. You have to know yourself. And if you have a track record of that type of behavior in other relationships and you haven't dealt with that, there's a high probability that you'll carry that same conduct and approach into a marriage. So I've seen people just be hasty, moving too fast, can't tell them nothing. And once they get into it and it gets real, they grab the parachute and they jump off the plane.
They're ready to leave. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. What do you do, speaking of, you know, hasty, as you know, that's one roadblock, right? But what do you do, or what do you advise folks when, you know, you have folk that come in for the service and you can tell through the conversation, you can tell through the dialogue and that they are just not prepared. They're not ready. They're not equally yoked and quite frankly shouldn't move forward. How do you advise them on that? Because they're coming seeking your advice about this glorious day and glorious life, but in the back of your mind you're saying, I don't think so. How do you handle that situation?
Rodney, that's a great question. I'll just start it like this. You tell people, don't get married just for marriage's sake, just to go through the motions and do it. Let's just start there. Don't feel like you have to do something for the sake of doing it. So during the sessions, quite naturally, there's a questionnaire that they would have filled out in advance. And as I, look at both of those particular questionnaires, how they respond to the questions, and then when we get into the sessions and we're having open dialogue, I'm listening and I'm observing. And the way my sessions are designed, I have 7 sessions that are just a number that I established. 4 with both, 1 with just a prospective husband, 1 with just a prospective wife, and then the 7th session is more of we come back together and we kind of recap everything that we've discussed and gone over throughout those previous 6 sessions. It's not a hard stop. If they feel they want to go further, we can do that. The reason I have the discussion with each party individually, because if there are any underlying issues that they don't want to talk about or expose in front of the other, they can share that in full transparency with me. And then I can speak to them with regards to that. Going through all of that and the listening and the observing, if it's clear that they're not ready, my recommendation for them, again, don't get married for marriage's sake. You might not be ready for marriage, but it doesn't mean that your relationship can't remain. You can still continue to date, continue to grow, and the things that you guys have learned and discovered in these premarital counseling sessions, you can work on them in the interim. But don't feel the need to go forward with the wedding and getting married just because you may have divulged this information to family and a handful of people. And I'm at the point now, if it hasn't fully been made known, it's kind of like when a couple gets pregnant. For the first trimester, they kind of want to keep it under wraps to make sure the baby's healthy, and they've kind of gone through those first 3 months. Then after they're confident that there are no issues, there are no major concerns, then they may let it be known and do the unveiling. We're expecting a child. So I make that recommendation with couples if the information is not already known. Obviously, a engagement ring would give it away. But if you haven't made it known yet, go through the sessions. Don't tell everybody right now. Let's work through these things, because in the event you come to the conclusion and it made clear, you know what, we may need to wait on this. There are some things here we have found out, discovered that we never did think about, and we don't want to be set up for failure. So maybe we need to pull back. So those are the things that I normally will tell couples when I kind of determine in my own mind through my observation and time spent with them, you're not really ready for this journey to be married for a lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's important, because a lot of times, couples, they will still go through the marriage process.
Yes.
Because they don't want to we've already ordered the cake.
Right.
We've ordered the menu, or the invitations. I don't want to disappoint my parents or whatever.
The invites and all of that.
Right. And then they looking at the external part instead of the internal part. Because that stuff can be rescheduled if there's a way for it to still go forward. But you have to think about and work on you as an individual, because what's the use of having this glamorous day and you guys aren't ready?
Yeah, you're not ready for it.
You're not ready.
And we've, unfortunately have known folks where the bills last longer than the bill for the wedding is longer than the marriage.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Because the bills keep coming in for that wonderful day, and they are divorced and separating and living separate lives.
And I think that's maturity. When you can say, you know what, I need to work on me, and then we need to work on us, and then we'll see where that road take us. That's maturity, to come together and be responsible adults in knowing that this is not the time. We need more help.
Yeah.
So
I think that folks fall in love with the idea of marriage, right? They fall in love with the idea of the day, right? The fun of picking out stuff and where we're going to go on a honeymoon and photos and, everything that comes with it, how big or however small you do it. But then they don't realize the next day, that's when the journey begins. That's when the work begins, and are you ready for the next day? That's the question. Are you ready
Right.
for the next day?
Yeah, because that's when the marriage start. The next day.
Yeah. Yeah.
The next day, and we have a public example, Dak Prescott and his fiance.
Boy.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
I mean, they pulled back for whatever the reasons are, but a decision was made that we need to cap this right here, pause, not go forward with the marriage. Whatever they decide to do going forward, not sure the status of the relationship, but they did, call a halt to the marriage. And it just saves a world of hurt and things that you cannot see unless you go through it.
Yeah, I would say, just to add, I mean, it's kind of humorous, but it's true. My father used to say, hey, marriage is grand, but divorce is 20 grand. Well, it's 20 grand back then, but
Right.
you don't only imagine how much it is now. So regardless, you want to make sure you get your return on your investment based on the long term. And so if you have to pump the brakes on the festivities, that's okay. Because guess what? There's a time and place for that. It's just that, hey, like you said, Qui, we need to continue to work on each other individually and collectively so that we can, once we do say I do, that it's for real and it's for a lifetime.
And just to follow with that, my question is there is it a mistake to not get premarital counseling?
Thought about this question. So I wouldn't say, I don't want to use the word mistake, but I'll say it this way. Because April and I went through premarital counseling, you both are experienced and graduates of premarital counseling. I would say it can put you at a disadvantage to not do the diligence and do the preparation. We have a tendency to give a lot of effort and preparation to the things that we say we really want in life. It could be preparing for a job. It could be preparing for school. It could be, just a lot of things we're willing to go the extra mile for that will get the outcome that we're seeking. But when it comes to something like premarital counseling, that concept to many is a foreign concept. And they haven't really given it the thought and the attention that they should. And it's something it is so critical because you don't know what you don't know. You can have good intentions. You can have good intentions and you can mean well, but you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes having a third party and someone there who can present scenarios and questions to you that ordinarily on your own you would have never thought about, and you would have never taken those things into consideration.
No, I think that's a real good point, because it's right. It's those little things that no one thinks about, right? Those whether it has to deal with finances, whether it has to deal with raising children and the philosophy behind that, or or if it's about work and work ethic, or if it's about it's simple things as dividing up the chores and who's going to do what in the house or what outside the house. Those little things, but little things turn into big things,
and those are important.
And those things begin to grow and galvanize, and then before you long, it started off with us talking about having different accounts, and now it's blown up into some something that you didn't want it to be, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's something that we were able to get out of those years ago premarital counseling, is thinking about the little things that no one ever really tells you about. How do you really communicate?
Right.
Everyone's going to have their disagreements, but what topics are off limits? How do we fight, but fight fair, and not hit below the belt, and those little things, because it's easy to tell somebody, never go to bed mad. And the next thing you know, it's like, yeah, that's easy for you to say, but we gonna deal with this. You know how folks do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's where the foundation comes in. That's when I talk about, because a lot of times people want to jump straight to all the things you mentioned, the practical areas, conflict resolution, child rearing, finances. They want to jump straight to those things. And obviously those things are critical and they deserve their time. But how do you effectively operate within those areas if your foundation is weak?
Right.
And that's why I'm big on foundation, so we understand how to approach a conversation about something that maybe we don't see eye to eye on. There's a way to address it. There's a way to put those issues on the table. There's a way to discuss family planning going forward, timing on that. What do we want to do? What are our beliefs regarding that? Finances, money. There's a way to talk about these things that a lot of times people are not skilled in how to approach various situations. And so that's why I'm big on foundation. So when you are faced, as I tell people, everything you say I do to, the only way we really know is you're going to get challenged in every one of those categories. You have to, in order to know that what you said, you're going to stand on it and you're going to be faithful going through it.
Yeah, absolutely. And another big one is, religious beliefs.
Right.
Are you equally yoked in that area? We didn't
Yes.
want
Yeah.
to be, we didn't want a marriage where we were on Sunday morning going in two different directions.
Right.
Yes.
That was big for us. And so, but those little things like that, sometimes folks, I guess don't think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to say this as I throw it back to y'all, because I think it's key. As people are listening to us, there's going to be plenty of people who say, well, I know a couple, they've been married for 25 years. They didn't do premarital counseling. Or I know a couple and her husband believes this and the wife believes that, and they get along just fine. And what I say to that is, there's always an example for every scenario, without question. However, there are what we call exceptions. Mm-hmm. And I don't recommend that people base their future on the exception, because what worked for someone else may not work for you.
Right.
So I would say base it on what is the established rule, where there is a history of success because of this, rather than hanging your hat on what other people do that is the exception and operating outside the box. And then you try to play by those same rules and it'll blow your whole situation.
Yeah, it doesn't work for you
because you followed someone else. So,
Yeah,
absolutely. So let me ask you this. What, in providing this service and the importance of it, and I can hear the passion coming from you guys out of it, what's the one, the biggest thing I would say that, that you've learned in providing this service?
People have unrealistic expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you mean by that?
They romanticize in their head what they think marriage is and what it's going to be for them with this particular individual. And it doesn't mean that the union is bad, but how they see it is unrealistic oftentimes, as opposed to what life is going to throw your way. And that's the one thing you can't dictate. You can't dictate life.
Right.
Life will life. And when things happen, you have to be prepared and equipped, and as they say in the workplace, to be fluid and to deal with things and to deal with change as it comes. Mm-hmm. Because it's not going to always show up according to the way that you imagined it in your mind. And so because people don't take that into consideration, and they normally have a preconceived notion of what they think it's going to be, as opposed to what it realistically can turn out to be, or what they might be faced with in the midst of it, that can cause a breakdown because you're not really ready to deal with reality as reality comes.
No, that's
good.
I would have to.
That's good.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, April.
Yeah, I would have to say the same, just in regards to that. But I think when it comes to premarital counseling, um, it not only is it an investment, it's a commitment. And so, as my husband said, life be lifing. Well,
Right.
you know, you might have that time when you are scheduled for a session, and then, you know, all of a sudden something happens behind the scenes that keeps you from attending your session. And then, you know, things start falling to the wayside. And so it's something that you need to remain committed to and committed to, so that you and your spouse to be will, you know, be able to, you know, flourish down the road. And so I just think that that's something that needs to be done. It's not for everybody. We were kind of skeptical at first when we first were considering it, you know, because we thought, hey, everything is good. But then after taking the time to understand what it was about and how it helped us uncover some things that we really didn't quite know about each other, that was a big eye opener. So, you know, it's something that we encourage everyone to invest in. It's almost like a car needing gasoline. It can't run without the gas. So it's like a marriage. You know, you can't, if you don't put the time and the commitment in, it's not going to run. It's not going to work.
And in all transparency,
Absolutely.
I was young and dumb and initially thought, we don't need premarital counseling. I said that. When it was brought to me at the beginning, the pastor who did our premarital counseling at the time and who ultimately married us, I mean, he was great. April knew him, worked with him. We're friends with him to this day. But in the moment, at the initial invitation, I didn't think, I'm a good guy. I'm a solid guy. I know what I want. I didn't really understand the value of it. So in full transparency, April was far more receptive to it initially. I never pushed back when we attended, but the initial invitation, I didn't really see and or understand the value that I was going to receive personally and that we will receive by attending it. And that's why I say young and dumb, because I know there's going to be people who still feel they don't need it. And I'm saying 30 years of marriage, having gone through it at the beginning, at the outset, I voiced what a lot of people, young men and or young women may voice, but how wrong I was. That was invaluable.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. So, tell folks that want interested in the service, interested in making a connection with you. How do they find you on social media? What numbers? How do they find you for this service?
So my website, david-page.com. And then also they can find me on my social media business platforms, Facebook and Instagram, David L. Page, Premarital Counseling. And then, of course, my work phone number is 469-744-6975. That is my business line. They can reach me. I do offer, as my website will indicate and will lay out, I do have initial consultation sessions. So there's an opportunity for them to have an hour initial consultation with me. We can kind of, uncover some of the foundational things about what my services are about. And for me, it's not just about a sales pitch. I think it's big to know. And I'm glad you had indicated these words earlier, Rodney. You said, I can hear the passion. It's not like I went and put in an application and said, I want to do premarital counseling. No, it's something that the Lord put on my heart. It is something I have an authentic passion for. And my objective is to come alongside and partner with couples and walk with them through these various aspects of marital life with the hope that they will take and extract some nuggets and some tools from that experience with me that will help them on their journey going forward.
And know that he can meet you wherever you're at. So online services is what he can provide. So if you're in Florida, California,
Oh, that's
you
awesome.
name it, he can be there and meet you where you're at. So that's a great thing about his business in regards to, being able to tap into anywhere and to everybody.
Absolutely, that's awesome. Well, we want to thank you guys for joining us today on Just Us, and it's here that we talk, faith, family, and community. And this is exactly what it's about. I think you guys are providing an awesome service, and with a lot of wisdom and knowledge that you have to share. And so we're glad that we could be a part of it and help spread that information to everyone else.
Yes, and God bless you on your journey. I am so excited about this. I love when you talked about taking care of your car. It's like maintenance, right? And so
Yes.
you have to be able to put that care.
That's
You
right.
go, you take your car to Quick Car and get the oil change and top off your fluids and all those things. It's the same thing with our relationship, and not only with us as couples, but also with the Father, because that's what we always want to go back to and put maintenance in that relationship,
and that time.
and that will flow. So
Yes.
thank you guys. This was beautiful. I am excited, and if you are looking for premarital counseling, please reach out to this couple and be blessed, be inspired, be prepared, develop a foundation. You will
Absolutely.
need it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Thanks
Absolutely.
The
again.
moniker is invest in who you love.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Great words of wisdom. And for you guys out there, we want you to invest in us. Invest in Just Us, the podcast. Don't forget to like, to share, to follow, to subscribe. Leave a comment. Let us know what you think about this. Let us give us any ideas on any topics. No conversation is off the table. We talk faith, family, and community. And until next time, be blessed.